Hi, I'm Peter, a visual effects artist from Silicon Valley. I'm not anyone particularly important, but this subject is something close to my heart. Dreams is the ambitious offspring of my favorite game studio, and it is also the result of nurturing by an incredible community. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You see, back when the world was much, much bigger, I was always sketching and building things, and my imagination was inspired by like Doctor Who and Knight Rider and random stuff like that. In fact, most of my homework was covered in drawings, and video games were a big part of my upbringing. And in 2005, I was taking photos of my friends and then turning them into characters for this little indie game called Ragdoll Kung Fu. I had no idea that this zany fighter was actually developed by Mark Healy and Alex Evans, who would eventually co-found Media Molecule after pitching this magical little project to Phil Harrison at PlayStation. A year after pitching that project, they took the stage at Game Developers Conference and stole our hearts with this adorable yet innovative demo with Sackboy and his trip through the imagination of everyone. LittleBigPlanet, in fact, is one of my fondest memories of playing games on the PlayStation 3. And I even dove into the creation mode, making the usual awful things like flying private parts and vehicles that just wildly spun, but also levels that I first crafted on paper. It was the precursor to what would eventually become Dreams, and literally something that I had dreamt about as a kid after being introduced to Mario Paint. Then, during the PlayStation 4 unveiling in 2013, that very concept materialized. It took me by surprise, and I was ecstatic for weeks about the potential. The question quickly became, what is this? What is this technology?
It's someone's dream brought to life with PlayStation 4.
And then when the official title was revealed, the question changed into, what is Dreams? Now, I consider myself rather tech-savvy, at least to a certain extent, so I was able to grasp some of it. So for the video games I was used to, everything was made of polygons. 3D models that were rasterized on screen, shaded, had textures loaded on top, displacement maps, and so on. However, this wasn't flexible enough for what the idea of Dreams required.
And I had this showdown with Kareem, right? Where he's like, Alex, I want it to look like that. And I'm like, yes, Kareem, we all interpret. That's our job as programmers, to interpret concept paintings and turn them into an engine. He's like, no, I want it to look like that. And I was like, you mean you want it to look like that? And it's like, yes, that painting. And I was like, oh, shit.
The foundation of this are called signed distance fields, which basically produce mathematical data to create these little clouds of points. Those points are made of splats, and as you scale the objects, more or less of those splats can be drawn within the same 3D space. This is exciting, because it removed many of the conventions for how 3D could be conveyed, allowing for a wide array of scales to be experienced, such as putting a city on top of the head of a nail. I reached out to NX Gamer to learn even more, and he said what makes the engine so exciting to him is that it books the trend of a standard rasterized image where UV coordinates are applied to each and every vertex using a lookup from a predefined texture map. And instead, the images and effects can be created with compute shaders or a mixture of both. He goes on to talk about how the method they employ to create these millions of splats on screen and the ambient occlusion to make them pop is not only visually stunning, but performant as well. What caught my attention were the windows between dreams, a spin on the portals of LittleBigPlanet. And because you're not loading traditional 3D models and textures and all that stuff, the levels also load incredibly fast. So you could find a spot like a painting on the wall and load into another dream almost instantaneously. And on the other side of that portal could be a completely different looking world, like an impressionist painting come to life. It was all very exciting and very ambitious. And in 2015, at the PlayStation Experience, I was actually able to meet with members of Media Molecule. They invited me to a community meetup a few days after the event, which also was an early celebration of their 10th anniversary, with a cake and everything. When I arrived, I was bear hugged by a slightly drunk Greg Miller, met the awesome Danny Barbera, LB Pukachu, and several others. I also got to speak again with the studio's art director, Kareem Itoni. Jenny Lawrence, who was the community manager back then, showed him a drawing that she had challenged me to do. My interpretation of the name Media Molecule. He promptly turned this 2D artwork into a 3D representation within Dreams. It was astonishing, and even more humbling was the fact that Siobhan Reddy, the studio manager, mistook it as a Kareem original. Alas, it would be years before I would be able to interact with Dreams again. Although some weeks later, a package arrived with a signed copy of Tearaway. You see, I had taken a copy of Tearaway with me to the PlayStation Experience, but not everyone was available to sign it. And not only did they send me a signed copy from the whole team, but a poster, a little message, and other trinkets. It was very touching, and I admire their act of kindness to a random fan from California. But that's what Dreams is. That's kind of the essence of Media Molecule, and the insurmountable positivity that can be felt throughout their entire community. So, what does Dreams mean to me? This software that lets anyone take hold of a video game controller and enables them to make almost anything they can imagine? This lovingly crafted story and a dreamiverse filled with the creations of others that I love to explore? It is also a practical tool that I've used to help me pre-visualize film productions and animation work, and a way to bond with friends. Dreams is my foreseeable future, the fruits of labor of one of the most amazing game studios on the planet. And it is the people on that planet that continue to make their dreams into reality. And I can't do much more than to thank all of you. You're all so amazing.